Okay, so today we have Noah Levy joining us. Noah is an entrepreneur and a marketing expert. He has founded several businesses and he's currently building his own called Outbound Agency in stealth mode. He is already working with clients like this show from scratch with David Moscow that is currently streaming on Peacock. A couple of years ago, with short of $100, he built one of the biggest music publication platforms in the world, and now it has almost 100,000 monthly readers. The Riff, a place where folks want to express their experiences with music can go share their thoughts without being a so-called expert. He also has a TED Talk on how givers are not only more successful but also happier. He has done so much and he's amazing. So I'm just excited to sit here and learn how the inspiring Noah Levy made his own momentum happen. Noah, thank you so much for being here, taking time out of your day. You stayed at my house alone for a little, the studio, I'm sorry. So that was cool, and I'm sorry for that. But it's really cool to have you here, so thank you.
Yeah, no worries. For the whole audience, I just want to say Joao is a very clean person. And there's AC here. Here in Spain, we're almost in Halloween, and it's just still really hot. So I appreciate you a lot.
Thank
It was
you.
nice to decompress too, because I had like a really big, intense work session right before coming here.
Oh, okay,
so
yeah.
it was nice. And
Okay.
you got me a coffee.
That's
so
cool. Yep,
thanks.
yep.
Yeah.
We try and do it right here. So I think so far it's been going good.
Yeah.
So you were born and raised in Miami.
Yeah, well, in America, we actually call it South Florida,
South Florida.
because I'm not from Miami. I'm from
Okay,
Broward
got you.
County.
Okay,
Yeah,
got you.
I just tell Europeans that I'm from Miami because they don't
Uh-huh.
really know what South Florida is. So
Yeah.
now you know.
Now we know.
30 minutes away from downtown.
Okay, so
roughly,
do you used to go there a lot or no?
Yeah. I know downtown Miami quite well, and all the Miami sports teams are my teams.
Oh,
Kind
really?
of like for the
Dolphins.
Cascais people.
Yeah.
The Lisbon teams are their teams. Yeah, the Dolphins unfortunately are my team. The Heat fortunately are my team.
Uh-huh.
You know, I grew up only a 10-minute drive from where the Florida Panthers, the hockey team that just won the Stanley Cup like
Oh,
a year
wow.
or two ago, play.
So you were into sports growing up?
Yeah, I was very into sports, but you know, I'm the type of sports fan who, I go to the games and I really enjoy it and I enjoy playing, but I no longer follow the drama because I just don't have time for that.
Yeah, I love it too, but it takes so much time.
Yeah.
Like it's the same with football here. Like my team Sporting, like I love it, and we spent like 18 years without winning a single thing.
Well,
And like we spent hours and hours of my life just looking at like this team that kept losing, and then we won. And I'm like, okay, I can rest a little, so I'm not watching as much and keeping it a closer eye. I would say it's more like I like seeing the result, and that's maybe it.
yeah.
Yeah, but that brings me to my first question. That like you go into Washington D.C.
Yeah.
to study at the American University.
Yeah.
But before we get into that, I wanted to kind of know who you were, like your younger you know, when you grew up, and what kind of things were you into? So I already said sports and maybe music, because I presume that's one of your passions.
You know, it's funny that you bring this up about music because, to be honest with you, and I actually wrote a really big article, I think, many years ago on the Riff about this, that I grew up as a music fan without actually realizing it because I never really played an instrument. I remember I had an elementary school teacher. Her name is Miss Leone. I still remember her and her big fluffy hair. Very, very amazing animated lady, and one of my favorite teachers probably of all time. And you know, I always had a crappy voice and didn't sound well or whatever, but I was still in Joyful Noise, which was the choir, and we went to downtown Las Olas, like in Fort Lauderdale.
Okay, yeah.
And we when we were little kids, and we all sang there, and it was great for Christmas. And anyway, so point being is that I was always a music fan. My mom always played classic rock and even other bands like Avett Brothers, you know, really, really high quality, good music, you know, Guns N' Roses, Bon Jovi, people like that. And I always grew up listening to this kind of stuff. But I also was the type of person who I never really went to concerts so much other than with my mom. I never played an instrument. I never did any of these things that a music kid does, you know? So I actually didn't start getting into music for real until probably during the pandemic. even. I noticed actually before the pandemic, I was here for 3 months, just chilling at a startup, and it totally failed. And I left DC. I had nothing else to do. So, I came here for 3 months. And I just spent those 3 months kind of walking around Barcelona, taking pictures with the same iPhone I still have, the iPhone XR.
Really?
Yeah. And listening to a lot of Red Hot Chili Peppers. And that's when it got me thinking, I'm actually a music fan. And then when the world shut down and I was in South Florida, I had nothing else to do at the time, so I just bought a guitar, like literally an Amazon Basics guitar, and I taught myself how to play acoustic
Wow.
guitar on YouTube. And then a few months later, ukulele, learned, some music theory, like very basic ones, difference between like chords and the notes, and some of the scales and progressions, slowly but surely learned some songs. And I mean, I still play to this day for fun.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's a good time. But I would also say, at some point in the pandemic, and I think I even wrote about this as well, at some point I realized, okay, Spotify was just way too much for me.
Mm.
The endless choices that you
Yeah.
have, and just the endless, listening to music as kind of like an escape rather than as a way to really enjoy the art. So I did an experiment. It was somewhere at least for 6 months. I quit Spotify, I quit any streaming platform, and I only bought music. And that changed my life. That
What?
literally changed my life. Yeah, because it's kind of like, because I'm a zillennial, so I was born in 97, so I
Okay.
have probably more in common with millennials than Gen Z. And I grew up with an iPod, with a CD player, even a tape cassette, right? So like I grew up without using Spotify or any of these types of services until I was in university. And so I always listened to the same songs, not really albums or whatever, but it was the first time in my life when I was actually consciously listening to music, and an album. Like, it's the first time in my life where I genuinely listened to a full album. And it's
Yeah.
like, and that's the mentality, right? It's like you sell an album for $9.99 versus a song for $129.
Yeah.
And a lot of musicians are very intentional about albums as kind of like a way to listen to everything. So why not just buy the album, because it's like a piece of art by itself? And it totally changed how I look at music. And to this day, I'm still very much an album listener. I still listen to the algorithm a lot just to discover new music and just to like mindlessly, but I'm also still like really enjoying the music. At the gym, I'm just like, like this morning. But point being, yeah, I was a music fan without realizing it. I never really hung out with music kids. You know how there were like the band kids,
Yeah.
the music kids, they're kind of like weird,
Mm-hmm.
I'm weird anyway without being the music kid. But yeah, I always was into sports otherwise, like verbally and vocally. And now look how things changed.
Yeah. What did you play any sports?
I played all, like, a little bit of everything. So, when I was in elementary school, which I think is like colegio here,
Yeah.
so, for the young kids. So I played, basketball, flag football, flag football, like American football, and then football, the European football.
Mm-hmm.
So I played, a little bit of everything growing up, and then eventually I stopped playing European football. And I just continued playing basketball until midway through high school. I tried out for our junior varsity team. I made it to the final cut. There was only one spot left, and there were between two people, me
No.
and someone else, and I didn't make it. And
No.
actually, our basketball team was really good. Our varsity team was ranked number 3 in the state
Damn.
of Florida, which is like one of the most competitive places in the
Yeah.
world for basketball. And we made it to semifinals in the States that year, I think. So we had a really good team and everything. And but I always knew that I was never deportista enough to, or athletic enough to be a good athlete. And so I just concentrated on being a really good at debate. So I was doing debate for 3 years in high school, and that completely changed my life. And it still affects me to this day.
Yeah, so that the debate thing, because I was trying to understand, because you go into the American University in Washington, D.C., so it's probably one of the most powerful cities in the world, and like a lot goes on there. It must be a very political environment. And like, do you step into the campus like for the first time and you're like, I'm going to be the president? Does that
Yeah,
make any
yeah.
sense?
No, this is something quite personal, but like I'll share it anyway because I think it's funny. So, I forgot that my phone I still have on my iPhone as my first name, Mr. President.
No way.
So like my last name's Levy, so it's literally like Mr. President Levy. So if I try to connect my AirPods on your Mac, for example, it'll literally say AirPods de Mr. President Levy. Like
Wow.
it's hilarious. And yeah, literally that was my ambition. When I was in high school, I did an event called Congressional Debate, which basically meant that we acted like we were senators or representatives from the House of Representatives, depending on the tournament format. But more or less, it was equal, where you debated on legislation and you were on the affirmation, so meaning you were pro of the legislation, or you were on the negation. And Congress is the only debate event. An event is like a sport, right? You had many different debate sports, right? Or if you're an equestrian fan, because I worked in equestrian in the past, so a discipline, right? Like hunter jumper, show jumping, dressage, things like that. So you had these different disciplines in debate. In the debate world, you had the debate, and then you had the speech. So speech was like very performative. So like, I think oral oratory was original oratory. Is one. You had extemporaneous, you had all these things. And then you had the debate ones like Lincoln Douglas, like LD, I think it was. So like one-on-one, you had policy, you had public forum.
Wow.
And Congress is the only one that was in the middle. We were half speech and half debate. So we were judged based on how great our logic was, but how great we spoke.
Wow.
And yeah, to be honest with you, I've never had a problem speaking in public. Like I just feel very comfortable with myself speaking in public. So on the speech side, I was really good, but on the debate side, it took me a really long time to get better and better. So yeah, and you just have to do a lot of extra work to do really well on the debate side. But point being is that debate completely changed my life in that sense, because I started just reading think tank studies as like a 15-year-old. And regarding your question about being a politician or something, when every Saturday of your life you become a senator or you become a representative and you're talking about big problems like gun control, income inequality, access to healthcare, things like that. Of course, I wanted to be a senator one day or something like that. And actually, American University, I'll just call it AU, henceforth. At AU, we had a shit ton of people from debate. Actually, we had this kid named Ryan Fedashik who he either works in the government or he's like a big scholar at like the Wilson Center. I can't remember. I have to recheck his LinkedIn, but he was ranked number 2 or number 1 in the country in my year
for debating.
And he went to university with me, for example.
Wow.
So like we have all of these people. Even one of my teammates from high school, her name is Sarah, and she was a really excellent debater, and I think she was ranked in the country at one point. She was like top 20, top 25 in Congress, and she also went to AU as well. So we went to AU together for a couple of years. So point being, we had really good debaters at AU. A bunch of us wanted to be politicians, but over time, I realized after taking a lot of classes in the international relations curriculum, I just became very disenchanted with the idea of being a cog in the machine. I'm a very creative person. Maybe ADHD without ever being diagnosed, perhaps. And I just can't imagine myself just being a diplomat, because actually being a diplomat is really boring. You're like granting visas and you're just like doing embassy work. Like this is not what you think of the sexy parts for like being and even being Secretary of State. Could you imagine how much the Secretary of State has to travel, not sleep, go all over the world, and just like not have a personal life at all? And just understanding how international relations work. I mean, even if you're the Secretary of State, at the end of the day, you represent the president of the United States interests, and also being president doesn't necessarily sound so fun. So And at the same time, I fell in love with the idea of entrepreneurship as a way to create wealth and economies and accessibility for all. So I transitioned quite quickly from having dreams of being a public sector person to being a private sector person.
Yeah. And what do you think like made that change? You reflected, because I think university is really cool because it's like an opportunity to have these 4 years where you can kind of get an understanding of who you are as a person, and like these 4 years go by, and I think if you're doing things like you did, you were a part of so many things. I have a couple of them here. Senator and student government.
Is that a print up
vice
of
president?
Like my resume?
No, this is the script. This is the script.
Okay.
This is my research.
It's like a job interview.
Yeah, I mean, not a little, but I want to like be respectful and informed because
I love it.
You did a lot of things, and I think it's cool to mention.
Thank you.
But yeah, I think you only get to that understanding if you do a lot of things and if you explore different things. So what kind of understanding of yourself did you feel like you had by the end of those 4 years?
Okay, I love your question.
Okay.
And I also want to add a really quick intro to your question that I think it's really important to be open-minded, and I think there's nothing wrong with changing your mind in life. Like, I know that the people who are probably watching this podcast are your guys' age, you know, and there's more than Joao in this room, by the way. So they're your guys' age. And at the end of the day, we get a lot of pressure from our parents, from our society, generally speaking, that we must stick with this path. Otherwise, you're an idiot for changing your mind. And no, you're not an idiot. In university, I literally went to every single club's first meeting or something like that. Like, and it was literally just out of curiosity, pure curiosity. I wanted to see what I was interested in and what I was not interested in. That's it. You know, just collecting data. So I think that's really important. But please repeat your question.
I think you kind of answered it.
Okay.
And you bring on a good point, too, because I think one of the biggest problems in the world is that, like, because, like, for example, now I have like a podcast, and I have these conversations. And I can have an opinion, like, in one podcast, and then, like, I learn something and I do some research, or I meet someone that tells me something differently. And now my opinion is not the same as it was like a week ago, you know?
Yeah.
And it changed. And it's not a bad thing to like say something and then be like, hey, I was totally wrong. I think it takes courage to admit something like that. But I think a lot of people don't do that. And they're too prideful of like what people might think if they go back on something they said, you know? So I think that's one of the biggest problems that you just brought up, and that's really cool.
It's ego, right?
Exactly,
you know, and if you live your life out of ego, you're not going to get very far. You know why? Because ego is not imaginative at all.
Yeah.
It's protecting what it already knows. You need to go out there and you need to find out what's out there.
Yeah, ego is scary because, but it's also like not a good thing to have. An ego is also a good thing, right? Because it makes you respect yourself and be, I don't know, have more courage to do certain things. Because if you want to start something like you did, you started a lot of companies. You have to be a little crazy and like believe in yourself to a crazy extent. Like, how am I going to make this happen? How am I going to make this machine make money? And maybe other people are counting on me and people have to invest on me. Like, you have to have an ego too. So I think like it's always about balance, right? It's finding that real balance. So do you think like, how did you did that when you started your first company? I think it was PodWorld.
Yeah.
Very early into podcasting, by the way. Yeah.
Man, okay. So literally, oh my God, PodWorld, it makes me angry sometimes because I still think that I never think about PodWorld anymore or even about Solve.
Yeah.
But at the time, it was totally right place, right time.
100%.
Apple Podcasts remains to be a shitty app. Like, let's just be honest. Like, I have an iPhone XR. I update my iOS every time it comes out because they still
cool.
update it, which is cool. But with that being said, I can't even open my Apple Podcast app anymore. I don't know what's wrong with it, but even when it was working like half a year ago, it's a crappy app. And then Spotify is just really crowded, right? So I fell in love with podcasts kind of like in that sort of, you know how like in university you're at this point of life where it's so romantic in the sense that knowledge, I could just go to a class and I could learn for a living, like I'm just learning for fun. Like it's crazy. So I viewed podcasts as the free version of that. Like there are these highly qualified people talking about a subject that they're a subject matter expert on. Holy crap. Like I just free knowledge for everyone. So I love podcasts, and you could also listen to any kind of podcast too. You could listen to scary podcasts. You could listen to erotica podcasts. They're like podcasts for everything. Yeah. So what I felt at the time was that there was not a really good way to discover new content. The discoverability problem was very much an issue. But I was not a technology guy, but I was a feeling guy, like a user experience guy without doing any of the technical stuff, right? So it's just like, I saw that there was this problem that existed and I did not know how to implement it. I signed up for our university's entrepreneurship incubator, which is quite good by American standards. And what ended up happening was that I found a technical co-founder and we just like never made any progress. I had no idea what I was doing. He was actually a really good developer. He was an instructor at General Assembly, and this is like an adult, right? Okay. He's like 10, 15 years older than me. Oh, really? At least. Yeah. This is like an adult. And like I was like 20 or 21 at the time and I knew nothing. And so we made no progress. But then what ended up happening was that this Australian entrepreneur, he who I look up to very dearly in my life, because just him doing what I'm about to tell you really changed a lot of the course of my life. So he co-founded what Deloitte or EY, I can't remember, one of those two, ranked as how they have like the Fast 500 startups in each region of the world. Yeah. So they're from Australia. So Australia's grouped in APAC, like Asia Pacific. Yeah. They ranked number 1. So they they won the award. So he founded this company. Wow. But him and his partner in the company, they were living in the United States to expand their business in the United States. Basically they were looking for some college kid to try to start like a company within their company, and their company so happened to be a very similar concept to what PodWorld was. Oh, really? And so basically they went to my incubator, and the people who ran the incubator recommended me. Wow. And we negotiated, and I was doing a paid internship at the time. It was enough for me to barely afford living in Washington, D.C., commuting an hour and a half each way. Wow. And then in the end, I negotiated to like pay me like a much better full-time salary to what I was being paid for per month with my internship, and a lot of equity in the company, like really? Not in their company, but like in our little entity within their entity. So that's what happened. And they gave me a budget of $10,000. So that was like me raising $10,000. I didn't even get to spend so much of it because we just didn't need to. And, to be honest with you, that failed because we just, I don't want to get into it like too much, but, we just had misalignment, between the team on the vision. Like we kept on changing vision, and, that's just like not good, right? Like if you understand what the vision is, like you just need to go to market, you need to see if there's product market fit, you need to get people to actually use the app, and then see how they're using the app and see what could be changed and stuff like that. Like we did none of that. Like we just kept on having internal meetings and then changing direction and like not actually getting any code shipped. So this was really bad. So it failed after like 5 months of doing that. And that's that's around the time when I came and, became musical all of a sudden. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's cool because you're still in university and you have already...
I just graduated university. Okay. Yeah, so I graduated a semester early. And so I graduated a semester early in December 2018. And I was still a member of the entrepreneurship incubator, but I already knew by the time in like December, like, okay, like the PodWorld thing kind of failed or just like dissipated, whatever. I got a job. It was my first job out of college. I was cold calling 100 restaurants every day, like literally on the phone, for some like mediocre software company that was doing like email marketing for them. And so I did that for like 3 months. Then I got that internship because I felt like it was a better fit because I was just not really interested in that former job.
Yeah.
So, this was like out of university, but then literally only within the first couple of weeks of that internship is when I got connected with this Australian guy, and I left the internship early
Cool.
to go full time with them.
Nice.
But I was doing it part time while doing the internship on the side. So, yeah.
No, that's cool because you started something, like a company, PodWorld, and then like, because when you start something, that's why the name of the podcast is Momentum,
Yeah.
because it's so powerful. You having the courage to go ahead and like just try something different while in university when everyone thinks you're what are you doing? Like, it doesn't make any sense. You're a kid. Stop trying things. But then like you tried something, and that's something. It might not be the one. It might not be the one that's gonna make you the most fulfilled, the number one thing for you. But it led to something else,
Yeah.
And then like it just keeps on rolling. So that's really cool.
I completely agree with what you're saying, because the thing is that momentum is everything. This is
Yeah.
why, doing deep work and not being distracted is crucial to getting something done. And it's like, for example, before coming here, so I met a guy at a networking event. He has a small consulting business here, but they're also in the US. They're like all over the world. And, their customers are Fortune 500s, so
Wow.
companies with 200 million or more in annual recurring revenue. So really, really big. And a bunch of their customers are like multi-billion in revenue as well. And so,
Jesus.
I met the founder of this firm, and,
Yeah.
I told him what I do and like what I'm doing right now. And he's like, this is the exact thing that I need right now. And so this was on Thursday. Right now we're in Wednesday, right?
Cool.
And
Yeah.
we have a meeting on Tuesday, and it's funny because also too, like in sales, what I learned is that when you have the prospect and you're talking to the prospect, you want to book the next meeting with them while you're still talking to them. Like, don't wait for the email interaction. So I remember at the networking event, he was like, well, we'll meet at some point. And then I just pulled out my calendar and I'm like, oh, like, well, why don't we just schedule the meeting right now? I see that my Tuesday is quite available. When would work for you? And that's what happened. So we booked the meeting. I did some research on his company, prepared some demonstration to show him exactly how I do the work with my customers. And, like we had the meeting yesterday and went really well. And we more or less agreed on a framework for a proposal. So now he's just like, okay, like send me the proposal. And like, I know what his budget is and everything. And so, literally right before coming here, I worked on my proposal. Right.
Oh.
And, I sent him my proposal. And, it's one of those things where I also, from last night, I had 2 sales calls with the same guy.
Okay.
He's member of Entrepreneurs Organization. So, these kinds of companies, they have to have like 3 million or more in ARR or something like that. So he's the founder of this company, and he he wasn't even interested in cold outreach or anything. He founded some cybersecurity consulting company, and they've they worked for Disney and like all these companies with tens of thousands of employees and companies with only like 3 or 5 employees. Basically, he saw that my cold outreach worked because I got a meeting booked with him. And he understood that I understood how this works. Now it's like I have to make a proposal for him too after this. And the cool part is that when I was making the proposal, it got me thinking about the current clients that I have right now, because when you make a proposal, like you want to make it as sophisticated as possible, which is a direct reflection of the work that you do. So it inspired me to be even more sophisticated than I already am with the clientele that I have. So even after sending this proposal, I have like a bunch of client work I need to do for someone.
Yeah.
And then and the point being is that it's just momentum is everything, because if I stopped and I kept on being distracted and it's like, oh, I want to do this and I want to do this and I want to do this, like I'm focusing only on one thing. But with one thing, and if you're the one who's doing everything pretty much, I have an intern with the CIEE. It's like a study abroad program here, but
Okay.
other than that, and he helps me out with lead generation stuff. But other than that, I do everything myself. Like, I'm doing legal, I'm doing accounting, I'm doing business development. So not only the lead generation, but also the proposal creation, the proposal sending. I'm doing all the negotiating. Then I have clients because, I figured out the whole sales thing. And then when I have clients, guess what? I have to do the client work.
Yeah.
Right. And then at some point you make enough money where you could outsource to other contractors or even hire an employee, something like that. But, the point being is that you can't wait. Like, take on the momentum. The momentum is everything, because one opportunity could lead to the other. I mean, even in my business model right now, so I'm charging 4 figures per month per client. And, but the thing is that even for some of my clientele, I'm giving them like a lower 4-figure range than like what I would like hypothetically charge. But, the thing is that if we do the contract great, then all of these clients will be increased in how much they pay. So like, for example, let's say you give people like 4 different customers, and I'm just giving you a hypothetical example right now. So let's say you give 4 different customers $1,000 per month each one. And then you guys get really good results for each other. Each of those 4 1K deals all of a sudden shoots up to 3K per month deals, right? So you literally increased your MRR just from those 4 customers alone from 4K to 12K. And even post taxes. So if your tech stack is relatively low, if your contractor spend is relatively low, your net profit could probably be literally like 10K, right?
Wow.
And then just do the math when you have the net profit and then the taxes of being an autonomo here in Spain, like you're living pretty large, right? So, point being is that another thing that I also want to add to this podcast is that a lot of people that I've noticed who like have agencies, they think very short term about it, and they're like, oh, I'm just going to make the sale. I'm going to do whatever job for the customer, and that's it. The way that I see it is that I'm very careful with who my customers are and with who I reach out to be my customers. And when I actually do have them, I use that momentum to not only build the relationship, but actually do a really good job with them. So that I could charge them even more money. Like, they'd be idiots if they stopped working with me. Because if I'm helping you make more money, if I'm making you like $250,000 in pipeline, not closed yet, but just like saying like like if I'm giving you like all this pipeline, why would you stop working with me? If I'm helping you make a ton of money, like, why would you stop working with me? If anything, you should pay me more. Right. Yeah. So I think if you're like in a sales conversation and you're just like, oh, like this is like not worth it. Like, the other way you should think of it is, if this person's trustworthy and if you really like working with this person, if you believe that you could grow with this person, like, take the deal anyway and show them, that I could do a really good job for you. So I could, charge you like 3 or 4 times more in a few months from now. And then all of a sudden your income and revenues will increase by a lot more.
Oh, yeah. 6 years ago, you did a TED Talk. And but
I forgot about that.
It was really cool, and I think it's even more interesting now because you did a TED Talk that basically, I'm gonna do a short summary, but then you can correct me because maybe I'm wrong. But it was social media and technology was starting to like become a very real thing, and for the first time 6 years ago, the iPhone was coming, so we could have like internet on our phones. And it started to get a little addicting, and you said that as a consequence, there was less community, and people were less involved with each other, and happiness also took a little plunge. But now I just think that it's just getting worse, right? Because technology and especially social media, I have such a hard time with social media. I'm so addicted, and I feel like I spend so many hours, and sometimes it's like, like it's definitely my fault because I keep scrolling, but it's so hard, and I feel like so many people have a hard time. So your framework, so if you were to step on that stage again, that TED Talk, tell me about what your solution was 6 years ago, and how would you reframe it for today's standards?
So basically, so the TED Talk was about a book called Give and Take, I think it was. It was by Adam Grant. And, the theme of the TED Talk was Adam Grant's thesis of pretty much categorizing people into three kinds. So you have givers, takers, and matchers. Matchers, the obvious one, and that's actually what most people are like. So it's like, hey, Joao, I buy you like let's say if I'm you, so I buy you a coffee.
Okay.
So I expect that next time we meet, you're gonna buy me a coffee or something like of a similar price, something like that. So most people are matchers, let's be honest. Then you've got takers, which is what it sounds like. They take and they have no expectation of giving back and whatever, their morals are just like that. And then finally you have givers, which are quite obvious. They're generous. And basically what Adam Grant said is that actually the most successful people in business are givers, but the thing is that those successful givers, they're smart givers. They're not stupid givers. So stupid givers are and he didn't say it this way, but I'm gonna say it this way. So stupid givers are people who just give anyway to anyone. So they give to the takers, right? So stupid givers and takers are best friends, right? Because the stupid givers they like giving, and then the takers love taking, right? Whereas smart givers, they quickly weed out people who are takers, and they're very good with their gut of, who's a good person and who's not. And so they're smart with their giving, but they're still quite generous. And so, I was basically arguing about this is the kind of person that we should be. But regarding the social media thing, I think it's just really it's funny, I went to Valencia over the weekend to see a friend. And I'm just the type of person who I easily make friends with people in person. I don't really use apps or anything to meet people. And I already knew more people than he did in his barrio. So
Really?
I knew all the people who worked at the cafeterias and I don't know, just random people on the street. And I think it's just when you have your AirPods in your ears, your headphones in your ears, and you're walking down the street, or if you're walking down the street and you're just looking at your phone, or if you're at a coffee shop and you're just only on your phone, what are you telling the people around you?
Yeah.
Really? What are you telling them? Fuck off. Don't talk to me. That's what you're telling them. You're telling them that I have this protective bubble. I'm not saying that it's bad to go to a coffee shop and to do whatever you want to do. That's not what I'm saying. But I have a feeling that a lot of people are just don't disturb me. What I'm doing on my phone is more important than you. It's different if it's you're not doing anything important and you're just on your phone, whatever. And then I interrupt you, and then you decide in your head, am I going to be open to in-person interaction? This person could be the love of my life. They could be my next customer. They could be my next business partner. They could be the next person who just inspires me for 5 minutes, but I never see again, right? Or they could be evil. I don't know. But the point being is that I find that a lot of people are more awkward because of the phone thing. And, quite frankly, these products are made to be super addictive. So I go to the gym a lot without taking my phone. There are periods of time right now where I delete Instagram from my phone, and the only time I could open Instagram is on the computer, so things like this. But, point being is that I think that it's up to each of us to I'm not going to just say social media is a bad thing, because social media actually does have a lot of really cool things. I don't have the time of day to catch up with all of my friends. So, it's really cool sometimes to just see what people are up to. Maybe they post something on Instagram, maybe they post a story or something. But I think you just need to learn how to control it. And at the end of the day, the biggest thing, because it's an addiction, right? Hype for a lot of people.
100%.
So with any addiction, I could say that I really believe it's just learning to be okay, why do I have the impulse right now to open up my Instagram app? and being curious. And you might be like, oh, it's because I'm feeling anxious right now.
Yeah.
And then when you understand that you're feeling anxious right now, which is actually the biggest discovery, because now you're being mindful, you're being in the present moment and acknowledging that you have a feeling that came to you that's provoking you to open the Instagram app. Then you could ask a follow-up question: what is causing my anxiety? Right? And so like just being more in the present, I know it sounds simple, and it's actually not. It's really fucking hard. It's really, really hard. I mean, I even, I journal every day.
Cool.
And I write in my journal whenever I'm feeling anxiety, whenever I'm feeling grief. I'm like, whenever I'm feeling like any of these feelings, and I just like acknowledge the feeling, and then I investigate like where the feeling like might come from, or whatever. And then I remind myself like kindly, like, hey, thank you, anxiety, for giving me the challenge, to just like see you come in my head, and like for me to peacefully coexist with you, and for me to not act on any of my urges, like opening up the Instagram app or something like that. Like, and learning how to deal with our emotions that way is super healthy. So, and you discover so much about yourself. You have no idea. Like anxiety, for example, from opening the Instagram app, it could be related to like really deep childhood traumas, for example. Like you just really never know. Like you have to do the work yourself. So social media is just the top of the funnel, if you want to use business terms.
That's so deep, but that's so cool. I never, like, of course, the thing that you said about acknowledging it, because that's cool, because there's the thing about mindless scrolling, or when you're being mindful. So there's something you want to look at your friends, or you want to watch a funny video because it's like watching a show, right? You feel like being entertained by this. But most of the time, sometimes I'm at the gym, and like I do like a set, and then I stop, and then I look at my phone. I turn it on, and then I put it back down. And I'm like, what? I didn't even do anything. It's just like almost like this thing that I have. I just look at my phone whenever I can, And and that's really interesting. Not like just acknowledging it, that maybe I'm doing this for a reason, And how do you because I have such a hard time journaling. I've always wanted to do it. And some people just say you can just write anything, right? Just start by writing that you don't want to write or something like that. So what's your process?
That's how you start. That's how you start anything. I think that if you want to start a habit, I watched this YouTube video, and it's like really funny the way it put it. It's like, if you want to start flossing every day, like literally just floss one tooth a day, and then maybe gradually move on to 2 or 3 or like whatever. And it's like that's how I view journaling. Just start writing whatever. But I think the journaling should be paired with like some sort of therapy if you can afford it, so that you could talk to the therapist, even an AI therapist if it's a good one. But I also think AI therapy, that's like a whole different subject, right? Like I'm not a therapist, I'm not like a psychologist or anything, but I would say from my experience, like I could use AI therapy quite well, because I've done real therapy before for a really long time. So like I know how it works, like the tools, and like what's good, what's not, when to listen to it, when not to listen to it, things like that. So maybe if you've never done like any real therapy before, maybe an AI therapist is a bad idea. Maybe you should start with real therapy first. But I think journaling by itself is a good start. But I also think that if you want to discover yourself even more, you could structure your journaling in such a way, and the structuring part could come from like going to therapy and stuff. So I think it just depends on how you want to and how much you want to invest in yourself.
Because we're always trying to, that's the point of life, right? We trying to be better as people, as someone that is trying to strive for something better than we were yesterday. And maybe journaling is a good way, because I don't know, I feel like you get so distracted. So maybe journaling is a good place to start and be like, there's a lot of things going on. Let's just realize what's happening. So that's really cool.
I look at journaling like I literally call my journal a data collection. Like it, like literally that's part of the title of the Google Doc. And, you know, I have it on Google Docs as well, because a lot of people make the argument of, oh, you know, you should handwrite your journaling because it's like more cathartic that way. Like, you know, I grew up like typing, and I know I could type feeling the same thing. Right. So, and for me, I really love the whole, I have a Google Doc and I organize it in a way where like you could quickly go through the dates. And I could read journal entries from many months ago, and I could see where I was in life. I could see how I felt, and not only how I felt, but how I dealt with the feelings.
Yeah.
Right? So it's literally like I'm recording the story of my life through my journal, and I get to see the progress so much, depending on how much you journal, depending on how reflective you are, depending on, you know, how much work you do on yourself. Like you could really see the data turning into something differently over time. You might have a completely different approach to life than you did 2 months ago. And you could see that by reading your past journal entries. Wow. There's so many tools that you could do. You could write unsent letters to people. You know, you could there's so many. You could do like trackers, you know, for like your feelings. Like there are a lot of different things that you could do to heal and recover or grow or do whatever you feel like you need to do in your life.
Yeah. I think I'm going to, like, no bullshit, I'm going to start journaling, or at least I'm going to try it tonight, because I've did it before, but I don't know, you're getting me motivated, so I'm going to try it. So thank you for that.
I think it's interesting because I thought about not going to the gym this morning, but then I felt really bad about it, not out of guilt, but more like I really want to go to the gym. Like I thought I had a really big sleep last night because, you know, it's just been nonstop since I came back from Valencia. And I thought like, oh, you know, maybe I'll just like relax, have a coffee, you know, whatever. But then I felt like, no, I want to journal, drink an espresso shot, and then go to the gym. Like that's like literally what I want to do.
Let's go.
Like I don't feel comfortable just, you know, sitting here, right? And that's when you know that a habit is a habit. I think the key is to make it a habit, not to do it like once a week. Do it every day, even if you just write one sentence. If you really want to start a journaling habit, like do it every single day, even if you don't feel like it, and try to do it at the same time every day. You might start every night before you go to bed. And then you might only start with a couple sentences per day. And then eventually you notice by the end of the week or even by the next week, you start to write like entire paragraphs or even entire pages. And then maybe after a month you realize, or even less than that, you might realize like, oh my God, like this is very therapeutic for me. I want to do this more than once a day. In my journal, I label it by the date. And then I put the time when I make an entry at the top, and then I start writing. So like, today we're in the 22nd of October. It's about to be it's like 3:49. And you know, I just put in like 3:49 p.m. And I already journaled today, so I've already written the October 22nd part. Right? So it's crazy, man. Like it's just like so much data collection, and you see what you're feeling, and if you journal for long enough, like you really become good at investigating why you feel a certain way.
And because I really want to, that's amazing, and I think it brings you bring me into what I wanted to ask you to. So the Riff, is super cool because you started with less than $100 and then you turned it into the number one, right, music publication place in Medium, which is a blogging platform, the biggest one.
I when I flew to Spain and I took out my SIM card, my AOL, what was it, AT&T, I haven't said that word in so long. They're like a big telecom company in America. When I took it out, I was not done with my iPhone payments yet. So they automatically withdrew most of the money I had in my bank account. So I only had like less than $100 in my Wells Fargo bank account. It was crazy. The same iPhone that I have today to this day, by the way. And yeah, I had no cash. I had nothing. But I had the idea of starting a Medium publication because I really believe Medium at the time was the best place to like read and write in the world. And it's still is to a certain extent, especially if you're a blogger just starting out. And, I noticed like you could start a publication on anything and they didn't have a single good music publication that survived. Like they tried and failed, like Medium themselves and also other brands like Rolling Stone. And then at the same time, due to my affinity for the Red Hot Chili Peppers when I was in Barcelona, I really wanted to write articles about them, but I had nowhere to submit them because if you want to write at Rolling Stone or Pitchfork, you have to be a professional music journalist, whatever the fuck that means.
Yeah.
Like, do these guys even play or do like whatever? Like, and then at the same time, you had the opposite side of the spectrum where it's like hyper local music blogs. They might only be for Ashbury Park, New Jersey or something like that. Like, come on, like this is ridiculous. We all love music. Like we all are connected to music somehow, even if you don't know. And so I wanted to create a place where anyone in the world who has a story related to music, it doesn't have to be that they played. It could just be like the first time they went to a concert. It could be a song that they listened to and how it was like the soundtrack to their lives. Like, just like anything. If you have a really good story and it's related to music, you could share it on the Riff, as long as it follows our editorial requirements. And, the point being is that that's the thing I wanted to start, because I didn't even start playing music yet. And I just wanted a place to write about how the Red Hot Chili Peppers made me feel. So not like traditional music journalism at all, just like from a fan's perspective. And I started writing articles, and then I started the Riff, and then I had a friend who, started writing as well. And then I just cold outreached like hundreds of people over that, few months or however long it was period. And, I got Nelson George, who's like one of the most famous music critics in the world, to,
Wow.
he interviewed Prince, Marvin Gaye, like all these guys, and he syndicated those articles with the Riff. We have Jeremy Hellinger, who's for many years, he's been an executive editor at People magazine. And he still writes at the Riff. So, I cold outreached to like all these people and invited all these people, and it took time to build it. But, surely enough, we got built that way, and we're the only one that is of significance still. Like other people have tried and failed to like build a competitor to the Riff, and no one has succeeded. Because of our community, we still have the same people writing from all those years ago, the same people. And I have Discord on my phone, and Kevin Alexander, who's, he's the editor in chief, and, he's my guy who runs the Riff. So, and we're still in touch and everything, you're right. Like, I just don't run it daily, but, Kevin runs the Discord. It was his idea to have a Discord, and I get notifications on my phone from the Discord every single day.
People writing.
People are not just sharing stuff, but they're like talking to each other.
It's amazing.
More people. I get notifications whenever there's a new member. It's like new members every day on the Discord. It's crazy. It's like a self-running machine. But you have the same people sticking on it. That's what real love is. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool, because that's the thing that you said on the TED Talk. I know it was so long ago. I don't know why I keep bringing it up. But it's cool because you mentioned community, and I think technology is increasing. There's less community, but at the same time, people are becoming more aware of the lack of community and the lack of just doing normal things that, like 10 years ago, were totally normal, but like nowadays, it's less common. Just having a place where you can like talk to people in not like not an Instagram comment section where you can hate on someone, but where you can like just guilt-free. Talk about a passion and get to meet people that like you're not scared of what they might think. You just put it out there, and I think that's amazing. And I think that's where we're heading into also, like in-person events, things like that, running clubs, all that stuff. I think it's amazing, and you starting that a while ago, it's really cool. So congrats on that.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And I mean, you made a good point with the in-person thing, because you could do that right now. You could just talk to random people on the street, random people at a cafeteria, random people at AYADA. Like you could do what you're saying right now. You don't need to be online, quite frankly. I and it's good because we're starting to see people be online less, because I think there was so much awareness, and now AI is just populating the platforms with just like a ton of crappy content. But point being is that I like, let's go back to in person. Let's be vulnerable, not anonymously. Just like with our friends. Like, that's how you build trust. That's how you build relationships with people. And you'll get burned, but being burned is part of life.
Exactly.
You gotta just. It makes you stronger. It makes you more resilient.
Yeah.
Build not just the physical muscle, but that mental and emotional muscle as well. You do that by building community in person and being vulnerable with other people.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. I want to be respectful of our time because I know we're reaching 4. But what do you do now? You're a partnership consultant at a show. I just saw the trailer. It's called From Scratch.
With David Moscow.
Yeah, it's super cool.
Thank you.
It's a nice idea. It's very different from what you usually see now. Could you tell me a little bit about it?
Yeah, so actually it's not on my LinkedIn, and I don't mind sharing this right now. So I've been building a cold outbound agency in stealth mode. And so From Scratch is one of my clients.
Oh, nice.
And so my LinkedIn and my digital stuff is not updated at all.
Okay.
But point being is that talking about From Scratch specifically. So basically what I did for them is that I built them like a brand new business development system that we could use for finding and reaching out to the right people. And now we're in conversations with a lot of people from different Fortune 500s who normally sponsor ad integrations within shows like ours. From Scratch specifically, it's a show hosted and created by both David Moscow and Karen Moscow. But she's the showrunner, whereas David is the host. And David goes around the world and interviews the best Michelin star chefs in the world. And he shows where they find and source their ingredients. And then at the end of it, he has to recreate the dish from scratch. So he has a 7-day challenge to choose a to take a dish that is chosen and recreate it. So he has to go to all the farms and the factories, whatever, and get all those ingredients, and then go back to the chef and then be like, hey, I'm going to recreate this right now, and the chef has to eat it and judge it. Damn. So and the cool part is that David, he's not a cook at all. Like, he's not an expert at all. So that's the really funny part of the show. All these shows are with people who they know how to cook and stuff, and David's not like that. He's just a David is an actor. Like, he was the little kid in Big with Tom Hanks.
I saw that.
So really nice guy, by the way, and so is Karen. They're both lovely people. They're actually going to be here shooting an episode in Barcelona with Disfrutar in a few weeks. So, we're going to all hang out and stuff. But, point being is that, that's it's a really fun gig. And I like working in, I have a public relations client too. I have another marketing client as well. They were the former head of marketing for Puma, for example. So, and the PR client, they're a WPP franchised agency. So, I like having these like high level, and David's show is streaming on Peacock.
Yeah.
So I like having these like high level clients where they have a lot of credibility, but there's also still a lot of room for growth. So yeah, it's a good time.
That's cool. You seem excited and that everything's going good. So I wanted to thank you for being here. I feel like I've learned a lot of things today, and I'm definitely gonna try and incorporate some of it in my own life. So thank you for being here. Thank you for taking the time, and it was a pleasure meeting you.
Obrigado.
Thank you.
Girl, you better take care, 'cause that man is trouble. You best beware. And though deep down, I know I might be headed for teardrops. Now that you got